Here's a short video tutorial for those of you who missed the demonstration in class or maybe want to go back and refer to some of the things I said if you might have missed them. This project is to make this sheet that you see on the screen right now. It is a white balance settings chart, if you will, and you can see the icons across the top, which are common to the Nikon D3000, 3100, 3200, 3300 series cameras, and underneath them is just the title for each icon. Light, as we discussed in class, has different color temperatures, and the white balance on the camera adjusts the camera so that it sees white and then sets the rest of the color settings based on what it knows to be white so that you get accurate color when you take your photo. I've got two examples here. A quick example, this photo was taken with the Nikon set on fluorescent for the white balance mode, and because it's taken in a room that's lit by fluorescent light, the actual white looks white and the other colors are true. They look like they actually look, and that's what we go for when we're taking photos most of the time. Now, if I had taken the same photo with the camera set to daylight, this is what I would get for a photo. It looks very yellow because daylight is a lot different from fluorescent light, so that the camera thinks that we have daylight, so it's going to set the settings and set the white so that the white appears white in daylight, not in fluorescent light. So that's why it looks a little different. So this is something that's kind of important to know, even though when we shoot our photos, we will almost always be using the auto white balance mode. Well, what we're going to do is for this project and for this sheet, you needed to go out and take 8 photos of the same exact scene on a tripod so the camera did not move in between. You want the camera to stay exactly the same so that you look like you've got one image with lots of different color stripes on it, and that's what we're going for. So hopefully you've taken your 8 images. You've got them in your folder on the G drive, in the class folder, in your own folder. There's a white balance sheet folder. Your images should be in there. So to that end, I'm going to start to show you how we get to this particular white balance settings sheet. So we're going to start by opening up Photoshop. You'll have a blank screen. You're going to simply go to the File menu, and you're going to come down here to Scripts. Under Scripts, there's a setting called Load Files into Stack. And basically what that will do is you are going to select your 8 images, and it is going to load them into the same file. It's going to just stack them together. So if I click on that and come over here, we've got this dialog box that comes open, and you're going to use Files, and you're going to simply come over to Browse. I'm going to click on Browse, and from there I'm going to go to my shortcut, okay? And under my shortcut is my folder. Inside my folder is my white balance folder. Now in the white balance folder, I've saved my 8 images. I've got 01 through 08. So that's 8 images that I've got. I'm going to select them, and I'm going to click OK to open them. Now, what that does is populates my list, and I can double check. Yes, I've got all my 8 images here, and I'm going to simply click on the OK button. What that will do is now Photoshop opens up a brand new file, and if you look over here on the right side, you'll see that it is placing all of these images in this file. Now it looks like they're not there, but they're all actually underneath one another. So this is the top layer, and this is the layer we're looking at right here. If I turn the visibility off on that layer, you'll see the next layer under there is visible. If I turn the next one off, the layer under it is visible. If I turn that off, the layer under it is visible. Now we're looking through the 3 layers, top layers. We've turned them off. There's no visibility, so we can actually see this layer. Now we can't see these because this one's on top. If I turn the visibility off here, you can see the next layer. If I turn the visibility off there, you can see this next layer. If I turn the visibility off there, now I'm looking at this layer, and if I turn this visibility off, that's the bottom layer. If I turn that visibility off, nothing. Okay, so basically we want to have all of these layers in our Photoshop file to make this image. Now what we're going to do is we want to take a slice from this image right here, and we want to copy it, and then we want to remove the whole image and just leave the slice. So in order to do that, we're going to come over here to our tool palette, and we're going to click on the rectangular marquee tool, which is a selection tool. So I've got rectangular marquee, and I'm going to click up in the upper left hand corner and drag down to make a rectangular selection, and I'm going to make it about 1 3/8. You can tell by the rulers up here in the ruler, right up here at the top. Now I've got my selection. You can see the little marching ants that go around there, the marquee. And I'm going to go up to the Select tab up here and click on it. down to the Save Selection option, and I'm going to click Save Selection, and I'm going to, right here, it's a new channel, just leave the defaults, and I'm simply going to hit number 1. Okay, so I'm saving the selection, and I'm just naming it number 1, simply because number 1 is easy to type. You could name it Chrysanthemum if you want to, but you don't want to be, spelling that out. So number 1 is good. I'll click OK. Now I've got this selection, and I've got this layer in the layer palette. If you look at the layer palette, I've got this layer right here selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Edit menu, come down here to Copy, and go to the Edit menu and come down here to Paste. Okay, you'll notice the hotkey, Control C for copy, Control V for paste. If you don't know those already, start learning them because they're going to be very important. So we're going to paste it. Now you'll notice in the layer palette, when I pasted it, it made a new layer above this other layer. So it copied from this layer and made a new layer right here. So now what I'm going to do is I want to come down here and just turn the visibility off on the layer I copied from, which is the one right below it. So if I turn that off, you'll see now, you should see where you've got a different color stripe here than the next image down because they're shot at different white balance settings. So now what I want to do is I want to make another slice the same size right next to it. So that's why I saved my selection. So here's the first step I'm going to do is come over to the layer palette and I'm going to click on the next layer down. So now I've got this blue layer selected. It's this layer right here. I can turn it off, turn it back on again. You can see the color change. So I've got this layer selected. I want to make a selection again. So I'm going to go to my Select tab and I'm going to load my selection. So I'm going to click on that. Now I've named it 1, so I know that's the selection I want. I'm going to click OK, and you'll see the selection reappear here. I still have my selection tool, my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to simply click inside, and I'm going to start dragging it to the right. As I drag it, I'm going to hold the Shift key down so that it doesn't move up or down. It just goes straight across. And I'm just going to line it up with the edge of the first. I'm going to line it up with this edge of this first stripe. Now I've got it all set. I'm on this layer. I've got my selection where I want it. I'm simply going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste, or Control C, Control V. Now, if I look at my layer palette, I've created another stripe, another new layer. So if I turn the visibility of the whole layer off below it, now you can see I've got 1 stripe, 2 stripes, and then the next layer is showing up behind these 2 stripes. Okay, I can turn them off and you'll see that whole layer. This is just a piece of it, the first image, a piece of the second image. Now I want to get a piece of the third image. So I'm going to click on the third image. I'm going to go to the Select tab, Load Selection. I'm going to come down here to 1, click OK. There's my selection. I'm going to put the selection tool in the middle, click and start dragging it to the right. And then I'm going to push my Shift key down so it doesn't move up or down. And I'm simply going to drag it, let go of my mouse key, let go of the Shift button, and now I'm going to come up to Edit, and I'm going to copy it, I'm going to edit, and I'm going to paste it. Now over here in the layer palette, we've created another new layer right below it. This is the layer we copied from. We can turn that off now, and you'll see that we have 1, 2, 3 layers, layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. They're all copied from the layer below them. Okay, layer 1 is copied from this layer. Layer 2 is copied from this layer. Layer 3 is copied from this layer. Now we need to make layer 4, which is this layer. So we're going to select that layer, 0004 in my file here. I'm going to come up to the Select tab. This is just going to get very repetitious until we get all 8 slices. So we get to go to number 1, click OK. Here's our selection. Going to simply click inside, start dragging it to the right, hold the Shift key down, and now we've lined it up. It looks good. Gonna go Control C, Control V, and then now you'll see over here we've created this new layer, layer 4, above this one. I'm going to turn the visibility off there, and you'll see now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, 4 stripes, and now this is the 5th layer. The 5th layer is right here. I'm going to click on that one because that's where I'm going to copy my next slice from. I've got a slice from layer 1, a slice from layer 2, a slice from layer 3, and a slice from layer 4. And they're all labeled. Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. Now I have not got one from layer 5 yet. So I'm going to select layer 5, come up to the Select menu, come down to Load Selection. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to come over here, click on 1, click OK. Now my selection comes back again. I'm going to click inside of it, start dragging to the right, hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to drag it just to the edge of the last selection, which is right here. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. I'm going to make a fifth from this. I'm going to make a fifth slice from this fifth layer. Control C, Control V, copied and pasted. If I turn the visibility off on the fifth layer right down here, it will leave me a stripe. Now, this stripe's a little harder to see because when we get into some of these settings, the daylight settings are all going to look similar. Flash is going to look similar to daylight because flash is balanced for daylight. So we're going to have daylight, we're going to have shade, we're going to have cloudy. They're all going to be daylight kind of balanced color. So it's going to be a little harder to tell because they're going to be very similar, and they should be. So now I've got my fifth slice. I'm going to come down and make my sixth slice from the sixth layer. So I'm going to click down here, DSC 0006, that's my sixth one. I've got it activated, and I'm going to come up here again, make a selection. So I'm going to load my selection so it's the same as the other ones. I'm going to click one, click OK. I'm going to click inside the selection, start dragging, hold the Shift key, and this time I'm going to have to kind of look really closely at this one to try and get it lined up. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to have my sixth layer here. I've got layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5. I'm going to create layer 6 from the sixth image. Control C, Control V, copied and paste. Now you can see that I've got my sixth layer here. All right. Now I'm going to come down. I'm going to turn this one off. And you can see, now you probably can see, especially when you start working on yours, you'll be able to see a slight difference between these. So now I'm going to go down to the next layer, layer 7. Okay, the next image, the seventh image, which is going to make my seventh layer. I'm going to come up to the Select tab, down to Load Selection, pick number 1, click OK. Got my selection up. I'm going to simply click inside of it, start dragging, hold the Shift key, and I'm going to let go of my mouse button, let go of the Shift key. I've got my seventh layer lined up right here. I've got my seventh image selected. I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and then I'm going to turn off this seventh image right here. Now you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this will be my eighth image right here. I'm going to go ahead and make another slice that's the same size just to keep it looking nice and neat and symmetrical. So I'm going to come down to the very bottom. I'm going to select my bottom layer, make sure that's active. I'm going to come up to the select, load another one of my selections. It's number 1. Click OK. Here's my selection. I'm going to simply click inside, start dragging it to the right, hold the Shift key, line it up with that edge right there. Looks pretty good. Control C, Control V, and I'm going to come down and turn off that bottom layer. Now you see I've got all my slices. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all the same size. It looks really nice. Now you'll notice we do have a little bit of a gap here and a little bit of a gap here. We can fix that very, very simply. We'll fix that first, and then we'll get rid of this extra space we don't need. So we're going to come over here to the tool panel, the toolbar, and we're going to click on the Move tool. If you hover over it, you'll see Move tool appears. I'm going to click on that. Now, in Photoshop, if you want to select a given layer, now you can see we've got all these layers. If I click and start dragging, the only layer that's going to move is this one because that's the one that's selected. Well, I want to move this layer right here. So I'm going to hold the Control key and I'm going to click on it. By holding the Control with the Move tool selected, by holding the Control key and selecting, by holding the Control key and clicking, that selects that layer. If you look down here, layer 6 is now selected. I'm just going to use the arrow key on the keyboard, the left arrow key, and I'm going to click once, and that's all I need. It fills in that gap. Okay, now there's no gap here, so I don't have to worry about it. The only other gap is here. So I want to move this layer to the left, so I'm going to hold the Control key, click on it with my left mouse button. Now this layer is selected, so when I move it, it will move. I'm going to use the left arrow key, 1, 2, closes that gap up very nicely. Now I've got this really nice continuous image here. And now I just want to crop off this clear spot right here. So I'm going to go over here to the tool palette, click on crop, come down here to the anchor point, and I'm going to simply click and drag it over. So now that cuts that off. I'm going to double click inside to accept it, and there we go. Now I've got my nice image all cropped down, and I'm ready to start the next step. But before I do that, I'm going to let you guys work on yours to get them finished up, and then we'll come back and talk about putting the titles on.